time we counted the words in the speech, I have a dream. And now we're going to do the same, but we're going to optimize this code, and I'm going to introduce a few concepts in Python that are useful. The concept of nesting operations and the concept of libraries. So let's run the this Python code here. Let's run this Python code. Let's run this Python code. It says Python, and then analysis that's the name. It's the name of this file. Analysis is the name of this file. So let's do Python analysis. It will output the dictionary with all the words and its counts. You can see the word off is super common, right? 99 times. So you see it here, but it's pretty ugly the way it's printed. Now, there are people who coded many functions in Python that can actually help us print this a lot better. And they put everything in a library called prettyprint. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say import pprint. I'm sorry, not prettyprint. Import preprint. And then instead of printing WC here at the end, I'm going to say pprint.pprint WC. This first thing here is the module, the file pprint. And then this is a function in that file. It's called the same, okay, but that's just a coincidence. But look at what pprint does for printing. It's really nice. So I'm going to run this program again. I saved it. I'm going to run it again. It prints a dictionary in a much nicer way, you see? So I can see that hour, 17, justice, governance, and so on, right? With 12 times, it's a much nicer way to print here. Now, I know that I'm going to be using this, so I don't want to type the module name and the function name all the time. So what I can say instead of import prettyprint, I can say from the module pprint, import the function pprint. And then I can just do this. I can just say pprint. That's all. If I run this program, it does the same. It prints it very prettily, very well. Okay? Now, this is one module that is very useful. With this, I'm going to optimize a little bit of code now, a little bit of optimization. This here has 3 steps to it. Okay, 3 steps. That I might not need all those 3 steps because I can nest operations. I can say, if I open a file name, that returns a pointer to a file name. If I call the method read in that pointer, it will return a string. And if I call split in a string, it will return a list. So why don't we do all in one line? I open the file, I read it, so now it's a string, and then on that string I will call the split method on space. And this is actually what I'm going to return. So these 2 other lines are extra code that I don't need. Okay? So that is one of the that is one of the optimizations that we can do, right? And this will do the exact same thing. So if I run it, I'm going to get the dictionary of all the words. The other thing that I want to do, there's a lot of different operations and dictionaries. I'm not going to go over that in detail. You should Google dictionaries for whatever it is that you need to do with them. But there's another library that implements counters on lists, and it's called collections. So from the library or the module collections, I will import a counter object, okay? And counters, they just create a dictionary or a counter object, which is very similar to a dictionary. It's actually what's called a subclass, but a counter is a kind of dictionary. And what the counter does is it counts words, and then it has pretty nifty methods. So my count words method, I'm going to pass it the list of words, and I'm going to return my counter is going to do almost the same thing as this, but I'm going to return a counter with the list of words. Okay? A counter with the list of words. And then, you know, that's all. So I save it and I run it, and you'll see the output is a little bit different. The output went back to being ugly, okay, and that is largely because this pprint function doesn't know how to print counters. but that's of no incidence right now because we're not so much worried about the printing. I showed you pprint can print a lot of things, lists, and a lot of things in a very nice way. Okay. Now, what you can do with a counter, it is the same as we did, but what you can do with a counter is that you can say, for example, WC now is not a dictionary, it's a counter. And the counter has this method that you can print, most common, the most common words, and they say the most common 10 words from the speech. So then you can go and click analysis, and it print. Now prettyprint, this returns a list, so prettyprint knows how to print it. The happens 101 times, of 99 times, nothing or apostrophe or whatever, that's a blank space, 63, and so on and so forth, right? Now notice that this is not a dictionary that it's looking here. It's a list of lists, but these little lists here are in parentheses. Those are called tuples, and they're different than lists. You can manipulate them very similarly, but they're different. And one thing in which they're different is that this tuple cannot grow, for example. You cannot add more things to a tuple. Also, you cannot change the items in a tuple. You can only read this tuple. Okay? There's a reason for this. I invite you to Google it, but this is not the point of the session. But here's a list with the most common words. And you can do just most common, and it will order the words from most common to least common. And we see that, Martin Luther King mentions unspeakable ones, but, for example, a lot of words he mentions once, but those is mentioned twice, and then, and then, for example, dream is mentioned 9 times only. America is mentioned 5 times, and so on and so forth, but now they're ordered by the number of mentions that they have. And I can manipulate a counter just like I do a dictionary. So I can say, the word count of the word freedom, right? And I can use prettyprint to print this too. I mean, I don't have to use print all the time. And then here's the word freedom. It's 19 times. So let's look up my count order here. Let's see words that happen 19 times. Here, 19, freedom. Right? So yes. So I can use a counter just like I use a dictionary, but on top of that I have this most common method, and to actually make it count items in a list, I just pass it to a counter, the counter object. This is called an object, right? And this is our short tutorial on Python. You can do so many things with what I've just taught you through these videos. I hope you get the utility for this. For text processing, and cleaning up text and isolating pieces of data that come from a file, this is a great language to do that. It's also a great language. There's modules that people have done, and actually they come with any installation of Python, that allow you to plot graphs, to do complex math. There's a math module that allows you to do logarithms and powers and other more fancy math. There's a regular expressions module that is very useful if you know what regular expressions are, and so on and so forth. This is a very powerful language, and I hope that you've enjoyed this tutorial.